free Palestine! Free Palestine! Canada must abide by its stated commitment to international law and the rule-based order by pledging meaningful steps against Israel's unilateral annexation. No annexation! No annexation! No annexation! No annexation! If recent history is any indication, verbal rebukes are insufficient, and only concrete action can ensure that Israel is deterred from its imminent violations of international law.
Mohammed rapes children! Mohammed rapes children!
So, sisters and brothers, comrades and friends, welcome to the live broadcast of Socialist Action's participation at today's rally in support of the Palestinian struggle and the Palestinian people. We've got a decent turnout here for this event. Folks are keeping their social distancing, wearing their masks, and we even have a few JDL folks who have shown up, so you know we're doing the right thing. So we're located right now at the intersection of Bloor Street and Yonge Street in Toronto. Come join us. We're here protesting the annexation of the lands in the West Bank. And of course, the more folks who come out, the better. So we'll be doing this live broadcast until my battery runs out. But we're here to say no to Israel annexation of the West Bank.
We acknowledge that we are on traditional territory of many indigenous nations of Turtle Island, just as Israel exists on traditional territory of the Palestinians. In both cases, settler presence requires respect for treaties, equity, and justice. We also agree with the Palestinian BDS boycott, divestment, sanctions national committee. They say offering unwavering solidarity to movements like Black Lives Matter, BLM in their struggles for justice. From Turtle Island to Palestine, annexation is a crime. From Turtle Island to Palestine, annexation is a crime. From Turtle Island to Palestine, annexation is a crime.
Sure. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. We're going to start with a few chants today to drown out the hate. Free Palestine!
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 Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Welcome everybody to our rally. We're here because we're against the annexation, the illegal Israeli annexation of parts of the West Bank. This is a huge moment for Palestinians and for the struggle for human rights. We need to be stronger. We need to be more powerful. And
I
our
need you to
voices need
be,
to be louder.
fairly close to me because I don't know when I'm going to go up your
Palestine.
feet, okay? I'm just going to pass the camera to you. You don't have to worry about the headphones. Just make sure it's aimed at me, okay?
Free, free Palestine!
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 Free, free
I want you
Palestine!
folks to see how
Free, free Palestine!
these JDL are able to threaten the cops to get away with it.
Free Palestine!
It's important to witness.
Palestine!
Could you imagine?
From Iraq
Could you
to
imagine?
Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Iraq
Could you imagine somebody in the BLM movement, or the queer rights movement, talking to the cops in such a way, and the cops just walking away?
Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
from Iraq to Palestine,
Occupation is a
Let's
crime!
go.
from Iraq to
Buddy's talking
Palestine,
some sense into him.
Occupation is a crime!
from Iraq to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
Turtle Island to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
Turtle Island, Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
Turtle Island to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
Turtle Island to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime!
free, free Palestine,
Free, free Palestine!
free, free Palestine,
Free, free Palestine!
free, free Palestine,
Free, free Palestine!
free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine!
Fight the power, turn the tide, end Israeli apartheid. Fight the power, turn the tide, end Israeli apartheid. Fight the power, turn the tide, end Israeli apartheid. Fight the power, turn the tide, end Israeli apartheid. Fight the power, turn the tide. Fight the power, turn the tide.
End Israeli apartheid!
Fight the power, turn the tide.
End Israeli apartheid!
Louder, fight the power, turn the tide.
End Israeli apartheid!
Fight the power, turn the tide. Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Intifada.
Viva, viva Intifada!
Viva, viva Intifada.
Viva, viva Intifada!
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Palestina.
Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Intifada.
Viva, viva Intifada!
Viva, viva Intifada.
Viva, viva Intifada!
And just so to be clear, the Intifada is an uprising by the Palestinian people against the Israeli military rule. It is an uprising for freedom, justice, and equality. It is an uprising that stands in solidarity with all oppressed peoples on the planet. Because that is the truth. We are in solidarity with all those who suffer under the yoke of oppression. We would like to give a shout out to the Black Lives Matter movement. We give a shout out to Indigenous rights activism,
Yeah!
the Indigenous struggle for land, for equality, for freedom, from white supremacy, from colonialism, and ultimately from the capitalist system that enslaves us all and exploits us. Just like to remind everybody that this is a physical distancing protest. I know it's easy to forget that, and everyone's having fun. So try to keep 2 meters apart, and we do have masks available. You can reach out to one of the marshals. The marshals are the individuals wearing the yellow vests. You can reach out to them for support, and if you have any questions, and we still have some available masks to wear. Thank you. So I do want to introduce, first of all, I'm going to say and thank my comrade, my longtime comrade here, Suzanne Weiss. Suzanne Weiss and I go a long way back. Many years ago, we gave a lecture at the University of Toronto. It was called From the Warsaw Ghetto to the Gaza Ghetto. And we talked about our solidarity between Jewish people who suffered under the Holocaust, under anti-Semitism, and the Palestinian people who suffer under political Zionism. This solidarity is strong today and is exemplified by my strong solidarity and my strong commitment to work together with Suzanne Weiss, who herself is a Holocaust survivor. And I'm very proud to be here today to co-MC this rally with her. Now, before I introduce the next speaker, I'm going to say my speech. I am a board member of Palestine House, which is the Palestinian Canadian Community Center.
I might be next to each.
I need a end the occupation button.
Okay, yeah, so on behalf of the Palestinian Canadian Community Center, also known as Palestine House, I'd like to salute you all for being here today to stand with us. We're all here today because there's something inside us yearning for justice. From Black Lives Matter to Indigenous rights and beyond, we are brought together to fight a common cause against colonialism, racism, and the ruling class's capitalist agenda. I myself am from Gaza, where our home was bombed and our lands were confiscated. For 72 years, we Palestinians have had our lands and rights stolen by Israel. We've endured mass expulsions from our homeland, decades of military rule, and one massacre after the other. And now we're seeing Trump's deal of the century materialize with the upcoming annexation of large portions of the West Bank. So what is annexation? And why are we speaking out against it? Folks, feel free to ignore those children over there. They're just angry little brats. Feel free to ignore them and turn your attention here.
That's right. Woo! Yeah!
Free Palestine!
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 Free Palestine! Do I have your attention now?
Yeah!
So what is annexation, and why are we speaking out against it? In fact, annexation of land in the West Bank is a huge deal and marks a major escalation by Israel in its ethnic cleansing campaign against the Palestinians. Annexation is when land becomes officially part of the country that captured it. For those new to the Palestinian story, Israel captured the West Bank, part of Palestine, in the 1967 war. Again, just ignore the child. Ignore the child. He is desperately in need of a good father and a good mother. Ignore the child. I need help.
Big time.
Annexation is when land becomes officially part of the country that captured it. For those new to the Palestinian story, Israel captured the West Bank, part of Palestine, in the 1967 war. And since then, the Israeli military ruled the West Bank in the world's longest-running military occupation. The UN called on Israel to withdraw from occupied territory and deemed it illegal to acquire land by war. Instead, Israel built illegal Jewish settlements in the West Bank and expelled thousands of Palestinians in the process. And today, instead of ending its occupation, Israel is going further by choosing to annex land where major Israeli settlements lie. With annexation, this land becomes officially part of the state of Israel. This is classic colonialism, folks. This is classic apartheid, as Palestinians inside those areas will not be granted Israeli citizenship and the right to vote in Israeli elections. Palestinian cities and towns will be encircled by Israel, and more Palestinians will be expelled from their homes during this process. Israel's goal has always been to take as much land as possible with the least amount of Palestinians as possible. This is why ethnic cleansing. This is why it is ethnic cleansing. It's impossible for Israel to be a Jewish majority state without expelling Palestinians who were the majority. This is why Israel is a racist state. This is why Israel is an apartheid state. And this is why we call for sanctions.
Here, here.
Apartheid in South Africa was opposed by the valiant resistance of black South Africans, while the world from the outside imposed sanctions on the white apartheid government in South Africa. This is what Palestinians are calling for. This is the least that Trudeau can do if Canada is serious about its commitment to international law. And as long as they keep attacking and oppressing us, we will be here and we will fight back. We are here because we're inspired by Indigenous struggles. We're inspired by Black Lives Matter. We're deeply affected when our siblings are murdered in cold blood by police and military forces. Iyad al-Hallaq, Ahmed Arakat, George Floyd, Regis Korchinski-Paquet, Ijaz Chaudhry, and countless others. We stand here with you today in solidarity and struggle. Yes, it is that spirit of solidarity that binds us together, that keeps the flame alive in all of us, in Palestine, on Turtle Island, and within all those who believe that a better world is possible. Thank you.
Solidarity!
Now I would like to introduce my friend and my colleague, Odette David. Odette is on the board of the Palestinian Canadian Community Center with me. Thank you, Odette. Here you go.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of every Palestinian worldwide, I thank you for coming out today to throw your support and solidarity with the Palestinian people. My name is Odette David.
Put it closer there. Put it closer.
My name is Odette David. I'm a very proud Canadian and a proud Palestinian. My family's history and family tree go back centuries. In 1948, as the news spread of massacres,
You're touching me, fuck off.
Stop touching them.
In 1948, as the news spread of massacres in neighboring villages, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians left or were forced to leave their homes, towns, villages with just their clothes on their backs, hoping to return when the fighting was over. They were never allowed to come back.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Thank you. Okay. Over 530 villages were erased, and more than 750,000 Palestinians became refugees in neighboring countries. Thousands were also killed in 1948. We lost our home, our land, and everything else.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
We became stateless overnight. The Palestinians who remained in what was now Israel were restricted to where they could live. Property belonging to absentees was placed under the control of the State of Israel. The absentees property law was the main legal instrument used by Israel to take possession of the land belonging to the internal and external Palestinian refugees. Therefore, all of Palestine was now owned by the new settler colonialists. Forward to 1967 war, Jerusalem, the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights were seized by Israel. More land takeover, more refugees. Thousands of Palestinians were made refugees again. Free, free Palestine!
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 Okay. The annexation, or more correctly, the theft of the land, has not stopped since 1967. Jewish settlements were built on Palestinian lands in Jerusalem, West Bank, and the Golan Heights. More and more lands are confiscated. More Palestinian homes destroyed. More displacement, more misery, more killings, more oppression. This is apartheid. The human cost of our tragedy cannot be calculated. Our catastrophe has not ended. You have families torn apart by borders and walls. You have refugees who are not accounted for.
So the
Free Palestine!
Free, 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 free Palestine!
You have refugees who are not accounted for, as they haven't obtained basic ID in the countries that they asked, that they were, I can't even speak, they sought refuge in.
We're winning.
Without an ID, you can't go to school, you can't send your children to school, you cannot work. You are now basically non-existent. Since 1948, there has been the pattern of the political and justice systems, the ideology and the actions of the state of Israel, occupation and oppression, annexation and appropriation. It happened then and has continued since. Based on everything we have seen and what the Palestinian people have experienced over the last 72 years, I would say the goal of the state of Israel is the ultimate annihilation of the Palestinian people. Creating a state where Zionist entitlement rules above justice and international law. Therefore, occupation leads to oppression and annexation leads to appropriation. Just a word to our Prime Minister in French. Nous demandons à notre gouvernement canadien d'évaluer sa politique étrangère. Nous exigeons d'être traité comme toute autre minorité ici au Canada. Monsieur Trudeau, Madame Freeland, Monsieur Champagne, où est votre humanité en ce qui concerne les Palestiniens? Vive la Palestine libre! Vive la Palestine libre! L'occupation mène à l'oppression et l'annexion mène à l'appropriation. Vive la Palestine libre!
Thank you, Odette. Thank you very much. Odette is a Palestinian. It's a very heartfelt speech. We want the Palestinian voice to be heard. The Canadian government is trying to make the Palestinian like the Israelis. They're trying to suffocate the Palestinians, and we want them to be heard. So I want to say that there are 7 other demonstrations against the annexation of Israel in Vancouver, in St. John, in New Brunswick, in Montreal, in Ottawa, in St. Catherine, again on July 4th. So let's chant one more time from Turtle Island to Palestine.
See the little screen in the bottom?
Yeah.
That's what you're filming. Okay? So don't put your fingers in front of that.
Annexation is a crime. Okay, I want to give the microphone.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne. I did also want to let you know that we have a group here called Postcards for Peace, and they got a table right here. Please, when you have a spare moment, make yourself right to the table and mail your postcards. These are postcards that will be sent to MPs demanding that sanctions on Israel be imposed. Amazing. And the suspension of the Canada-Israel Free Trade Agreement. You can choose a pre-written postcard or write your own. So please make your way to Postcards for Peace right there. We're very grateful for your solidarity, Postcards for Peace. Thanks so much.
They came all the way from Brampton.
They came all the way from Brampton. All right. Okay, next, what do we have? Julius. We have you up next. Okay, great to have you, Julius R. Scott. He is the alternate executive board member of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, CUPE. He's also a member of the Workers' Action Movement and the NDP Socialist Caucus. So great to have you.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, comrades and friends. My name is Julius R. Scott. I am an alternate executive board member of OPSU in Toronto and leader of Socialist Action. SA is one of the initiators of this protest and the coalition that organized it. We say no to annexation of the West Bank. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Israel was founded on a big lie that Palestine was a land without people for people without a land. The Palestinian people are here today to refute that lie. Socialist Action is part of the World Trotskyist movement. Our movement opposed the creation of the Zionist state 72 years ago. The current land grab building on the Nakba in 1948, the expanded occupation in 1967, and the recent annexation of the Golan Heights deepens an ugly legacy of racism and ethnic cleansing. Look at the world today. It is sharply polarized. On the one hand, there's a global pandemic, economic ruin, environmental catastrophe, and authoritarian rule. On the other hand, millions are crying out, smash racism, Black and Indigenous lives matter, abolish the police. The Justin Trudeau Liberal government promised Bibi Netanyahu that Canada on the Security Council would be an asset for Israel. Ottawa's defeat at the UN was a victory for the Palestinian people. We know that public opinion in Canada backs sanctions against the Zionist state. Still, the authorities tried to vilify and even to outlaw BDS. They seek to ban the Al-Quds March and to stop anti-Zionist free speech. Zionists and their friends in big business are in a panic. It is a sign of their weakness. The Palestinian people are in the forefront of resistance to world imperialism. They did not choose this role. It was thrust upon them. They are the heroes of the world working class. Many states are guilty of atrocious crimes, but Israel is a linchpin. Free, free Palestine! 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 From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Israel is a linchpin of the global imperialist movement.
None of that. None of
Richard
that.
Nixon, a strident.
None of that. Yo, get your Zionist ass out.
It's okay. It's okay. This is sisters and brothers,
Get out of here.
comrades and friends. This is nothing compared to what Palestinians deal with on a day-to-day basis in Palestine.
Right on.
Let's keep our cool and ignore the circus. Many states are guilty of atrocious crimes, but Israel is a linchpin of global imperialist rule. Richard Nixon, a strident anti-Semite, called Israel America's biggest aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean. Freedom for Palestine means freedom for humanity. Proudly, we stand with the people of Palestine. Our task is to mobilize public opinion in mass actions based on clear demands. For that reason, Socialist Action will not stop demanding no to annexation of the West Bank, break the siege of Gaza, end the occupation, tear down the apartheid wall, for the right of all refugees to return home, for a democratic, secular Palestine for all its residents, Muslims, Jews, Christians, and atheists. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Thank you.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
just want to say one thing about the BDS movement has got says that Palestine, the BDS, that is the Boycott, Divestment, Sanction Movement, the DNC, supports the protests over anti-police brutality in the United States and in Canada, and offered its unwavering solidarity to movements like the Black Lives Matter in their struggle for justice. So, from Turtle Island to Palestine, annexation is a crime.
Palestine annexation is a crime.
All right. So next up, we have Miguel. Miguel, comrade, are you here? There we go. Miguel Figueroa from the Canadian Peace Congress.
Well, thank you, brothers and sisters. It's a great pleasure to bring greetings, militant greetings from the Canadian Peace Congress, not only to those here, but to those demonstrating, taking protest actions across Canada, in the occupied territories themselves, and indeed right around the world against this latest crime by the Zionist state of Israel. As you know, the General Secretary, the Secretary General of the United Nations has come out and condemned this illegal act. The entire international community has condemned it. The only force on earth, political force on earth, that supports this brigandage, this thievery, is, of course, U.S. imperialism. And they claim they have bipartisan support, but we know that that bipartisan support isn't a reflection of the views of the American people as a whole. And so the vast majority of humanity are opposed to this crime, and we need to step that up. It is perhaps an irony that yesterday, June 26th, marked the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the UN Charter, a very important advance for humanity. And if there's one state that has repeatedly violated the principles of international law and of the UN Charter, has done it for decades, it is the Zionist state of Israel. I know I just have another minute or so. I wanted to say that, of course, we support the demand that the Canadian government, that the Trudeau government speak out in a forthright and in a principled manner in condemning this annexation. It is a sad comment, brothers and sisters, a sad comment on the current state of Canadian foreign policy that we even have to organize protests to demand and put pressure on the Canadian government to speak out in defense of international law. That we have to urge MPs to recognize and support the principles of the UN Charter and international and UN declarations. I want to end by saying that the Peace Congress, which is one of the oldest peace organizations in Canada, is of course principally devoted to the struggle for peace and disarmament and for the negotiated peaceful resolution of conflicts between states. But I want to make very clear, the Peace Congress is not a pacifist peace organization. We recognize that peace, real peace, genuine peace, enduring peace cannot come unless it's combined and based on justice. And that the people have a right, having exhausted all other avenues, have a right to resist occupation, have a right to resist repression, have a right to resist criminality by any means at their disposal. So I want to assure you that the Canadian Peace Congress stands unconditionally in support with the Palestinian people in this struggle. Viva Palestina! Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Thank you. Viva, viva Palestina!
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 Viva,
viva Intifada! Viva viva Intifada! Viva viva Palestina! Viva viva Palestina! Viva viva Palestina! People united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united
Thanks,
will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. I want you to hear you all the way from Panama. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Right, next up we have Nadia Al-Fakra. Nadia is a Canadian Palestinian activist who is currently a member of the Oakville Palestine Rights Association. So if any of you live in Oakville or it's more convenient for you to be in Oakville, please reach out to So
Nadia.
folks,
I can really introduce you.
thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to the Socialist Action YouTube channel. We're going to do more of these live events that are live in Canada and Toronto particularly, but we hope to spread to other parts of the country. And you can stay in touch with us by subscribing to YouTube. The event is going to go on for a little while, but I'm not sure how much more battery life my phone has. So we're going to keep going until it runs out.
Oakville Palestine Rights Association, which are local group for Oakville that basically supports the Palestinian rights and is part of the ongoing campaign of No Way to Defeat Al-Shabaab. OPA identifies and supports the struggle for justice for Palestine and Indigenous brothers and sisters and Black Lives Matter. One justice to one is injustice for all. Annexation plan that was announced earlier this year could begin on the 1st of July that consists of annexing huge areas of the West Bank and all of its settlements that Israel has been military occupying since 1967.
Oh, there's some drama at the beginning. Well, it's good now, though.
Germany and its annexation of territory from Laban Throne was defeated, and the UN was founded.
I'm just going to run it.
Annexation of one country's territory by another country was banned in the
Want to do it now? We'll do it right now because I'm going to run out. So I'm going to interview, see, I'm starting to lose. I got 5%. So we're going to interview Barry Weisletter, who is one of the lead organizers of today's rally and Federal Secretary of Socialist Action. So Barry, why did you organize? Why did we organize this today? What's going on here?
Well, of course, Israel's taking unconscionable illegal action and seizing over 30% of the West Bank starting in early July. So we had to protest it, and there are actions around the world, across this country, to protest the West Bank land grab. But it also comes in the heels of the Israel government's rejection at the UN in its bid for the Security Council seat. So we're here to say that Canadian foreign policy is wrong, it's not wrong on Venezuela, on Palestine, on pipelines, on the growing inequality between the North and the South. This is addressed by this demonstration. It's wonderful to see over 200 people here today, just outside the consulate
Thanks. So, Barry, in the last few years, there's been several surveys that have been put out that have indicated that there's growing support for Palestine in Canadian society, and yet on the political front, the political parties, even the NDP, the Labour-based NDP, all the leadership in these parties are pro-Israeli. The big business community in Canada is pro-Israeli. I mean, what do you think of that? What is the explanation for that massive divide between the population of Canada, the working class in Canada, and the boss around this issue?
Behind this divide is political opportunism and the misguided concepts of electoral fortune, because as you pointed out, opinion polls since at least 2017 show that the majority of Canadians are for sanctions against Israel for its horrendous behavior in the West Bank area. So the question is, what should Canadians do about it? What should the working class do about it? First of all, we have to take control of our own organizations. The leaders of the unions and the NDP the same That's why Socialist Action is engaged in building and with others in the union, building Socialist Action movement. The bureaucratic leadership to make working class organizations have to be replaced by a class struggle leadership that is international and that is in tune with the growing public opinion in favor of human rights for the Palestinians. As for the other parties, at least their policies are understandable. They act in the interests of big business. They're funded by big business. That's their credo. That's their whole approach to political life. They have to be defeated, and they need to be defeated by working people taking action at the point of production and in the communities to reject their austerity agenda, to make sure we don't go back to pre-COVID days. We need childcare and healthcare and farm care, and we need equal rights for Palestine.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you very much. So we're going to keep broadcasting until we run out of juice, but probably a few more minutes. We have a representative of OPSU speaking next. If you'd like to find out more about Socialist Action, visit our website at www.socialistaction.ca.
I want to speak a little about my position in all of this. I am a Polish-born woman who migrated from Poland when I was a child. Poland has a history of deep-seated anti-Semitism. It is no accident that the death camps were situated in Poland and only in Poland when the Nazis chose to enact the final solution. That history is a history that pushed me to become a genocide scholar. That's my profession. I studied genocide. And we know, and we have seen over and over again, that occupation, annexation, ethnic cleansing does not end in peace. It ends in the destruction of peoples. And that is where this heads, and that is the only direction it goes when that is what happens. So we have to stand, as we stood in the 80s against apartheid in South Africa, we have to stand together in solidarity, and we need labor to stand with the movement. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Folks, it's really upsetting that it has come this far in our struggle, where Israel is now given the green light by the U.S. to annex Palestinian land in the West Bank. Now, we know that Israel did already annex East Jerusalem in 1980, but they continued to illegally occupy Gaza and the West Bank until now. And now they're going to impose this annexation with the green light from the U.S., but it's not just the U.S., right? Canada's given them the green light as well. This is mainly why we're here, because our representatives are not listening to us. We have to ask ourselves, why did it come this far? We have been standing up against apartheid in Israel-Palestine for many, many years. I was personally around when the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement was announced in Palestine, when Palestinians demanded that the world impose boycotts, divestments, and sanctions against Israel. And why was that announced? It was announced precisely because world governments aren't doing anything about it. They're not taking action. They're not taking action because their interests lie with the Israeli government's interests. And that's where we, the common people, need to unite, and we need to have the conversation about how do we get boycott, divestment, and sanctions passed? How do we push for that? Folks, it's not going to come through conversations with our politicians. Conversations aren't going to do it. Reaching out isn't going to be enough. We need to pressure them. We need to force them to implement boycott, divestment, and sanctions. There is no other way but to make it costly for them not to boycott, divest, and sanction from Israel. And these are the conversations we need to have about how do we go about doing that? How do we achieve our goals? Because we are the majority. We are the 99%. They are the 1%. We're the ones who, if anybody's going to be able to change things, and to change things for Palestinians, and to make our lives better, and to make all the lives of all oppressed peoples better, and to implement our right of return so that we can go back home to our land, our stolen land. That goes for obviously for Indigenous people in Canada too, on Turtle Island. We need to support them, but the only way we're going to do that is if we have the conversations about how we're going to unite, how we're going to work together, stand in solidarity with each other, and be able to force that necessary pressure on our government to act. Now, please reach out to us. We are on
Julius's battery is now ran out, so we thank you for participating and watching along with us. Again, if you want to learn more about Socialist Action, please join us at www.socialistaction.ca or search for Socialist Action Canada on Facebook. Thank you for your time. Take care.